All right, in this video, we're going to talk about mining the unconscious desires. So, in this strategy to turn your traffic or your prospects into paying customers, you want to concentrate on the person buying, the sales prospect, rather than the product. Your sales prospects can determine what lures will work best for you in converting visitors into customers. But for that, you really have to understand your demographics. If you haven't done some sort of market research in your demographics, you will want to do that. In face to face interactions, the demographics are the people who visit and look at your products. But online, it is not as obvious who is visiting your site and why. So, you will want to gather some information through surveys, doing market research for demographics, checking out the statistics of your website logs, and also using social networking to get a better feel for who might be interested in your products. Okay, so what is the strategy here? To understand the unconscious desires that may be lurking in a sales prospect's mind, you need to interact with them and start to get to know them. Some people do this with surveys by offering a freebie in exchange for visitors filling out a survey. However, that's not going to give you a full view as many people refuse to fill out surveys. So the next option is to get the people who visit to interact in a forum or group where you can ask questions, see what people are talking about, and get a general feel for who is showing up to your website. Start out by gathering information on anything that might appeal to your customer. In social networking places like Facebook, this is a pretty simple thing to do. You just look through the profiles that people draw up in a network, and that tells you a lot about what motivates people who join certain groups on Facebook. But you also have to direct your marketing research to your product interest too. So, say you're trying to find out the subconscious motivations of people who are visiting your pet website. There are the obvious reasons that they're interested in pets and pet products, but that doesn't determine the subconscious motivation that may get them to buy your pet products. For that, you might want to know more about your visitors. Do they have hobbies? Are they having safety issues? What about where they live? Is there something there that might make it more appealing to have pets or more important to have pet products? At the end of your research into this issue, you may come up with a couple of different ways to implement the strategy. Once you have a good idea of some underlying motivations that might be driving people to your website, then you simply provide the solution to the unconscious desire by providing services that match your target market's needs. You will want to do that by writing copy that expresses how it solves their needs by selling the benefits first. But if you have done your homework well, you will be pushing a trigger button that gets immediate attention and can result in an instant sale purely from understanding the psychology of what your customers buy. So let's talk about those triggers. What are the psychological triggers? Let's face it, when it comes to subconscious triggers, most people are on autopilot. Our entire society is set up to keep people in this hypnotic state. So people generally don't question why they do a certain thing or make a particular purchase. They just may have the vague sense that they need it. However, there are some subconscious triggers that appeal to almost everyone's ego, like sex, money, and power. These are not so hidden, except that when people make a purchase, they may not even be aware that it's exactly one of these triggers that finally sealed the deal. That's why advertisers showcase pretty girls with their products for men. They may be selling electric shavers, but the woman is the one touching his face on television and going, "Ah," right? Isn't that the way it goes? So, was it the feature of the particular razor that sold it, or the subconscious trigger that insinuated that the person's sex appeal would shoot up dramatically if they used it? Probably the latter. However, if you ask a person why they bought the razor, they would most likely start to tell you about the features because the trigger was so subconscious they don't even realize they were influenced by it. Then there are subconscious triggers that aren't so universal, but are specific to your demographic and your product. For instance, do you remember the commercials about the elderly person who falls and can't get up? Then they have the instant communication system around their neck that notifies someone they need help. Okay, so what is the subconscious trigger here? It's the fear of living alone and having no one around to help. That might be specific to the demographic of the elderly people they would sell to. But no matter how memorable the commercial is, most people buying it would probably not want to admit that fear of being frail or even being elderly for that matter. They might convince themselves that the reason they bought it was because it was convenient or not that expensive. So be aware that the unconscious desires can be universal or specific to your demographic. The key is to provide the solutions or associate your product with that unconscious desire so that people will feel more compelled to close the deal. In a way, you will have to be smarter than the people who are buying your product. You may have a product that doesn't appear to have universal appeal, but you want to use this strategy. It's your job to figure out a way to associate that product with either sex, money, or power, or some other unconscious desire that may land you a sale. So let's talk about implementing this effectively. To implement this strategy, you will not only be targeting sales, but any call to action that can increase the value of your website or blog or in your store. In these terms, a call to action may be to buy something, but it can also be to add a comment to a blog or discuss something in a public forum, to join your email list, or any other action that makes the buyer interact with you or your website, for instance. If you have a lot of activity on your site, this can help you define what is motivating the visits to your site and how to manifest your visitors' unconscious desires, as we talked about earlier. You will want to use the gathering phase to cull information on your visitors' subconscious desires. Maybe you experience more sales from people who are visiting your site from the southern part of the United States in the summer than you do from other regions of the country, say in the winter. That tells you that there is something specific to that region that is motivating sales. The fact is that southern states have a harder time controlling fleas in the summer months, and even though you may not live there, your website is worldwide and people have found it and are buying. Well, one of the ways you can influence a subconscious trigger is just to advertise how many southerners actually buy from your site. But that's not very subtle, is it? It may trigger feelings of belonging and also status too. But it can also make them wonder why they're being targeted. The key to using a subconscious trigger is to keep it somewhat subconscious. You may get it, but it shouldn't be too obvious to the people who are buying your product or they will resist it. So maybe you find out people in the South who have lots of dogs or cats living in the country and like country music or NASCAR, Viola. You set up your pet site with a referral from a country music star or a NASCAR driver. You don't mention the word South, not at all. Even though that's your demographic, you don't say that Southerners have too many fleas in the summer. You just have your celebrity showing how effective it is to treat their pets with your product and what they like about it, the benefits. The subconscious trigger of identity is very powerful. They will identify your product with where they live in the South and probably think of you more in association with a celebrity. Every time they hear a song or watch NASCAR, subconsciously they will remember that ad, and if they happen to be doing it in the summer, you've probably already made a sale. So, The thing is to be subtle but focused on your product and target audience when you're going to close a deal. That doesn't mean that you can't use this strategy for other things to get your visitors involved in your website or your store and help you determine their needs. As mentioned earlier, a valid action on your site or store may be someone putting a comment on your blog or adding a post to a discussion group on your site. If your site is a group site with membership levels, you can easily use the subconscious desire to belong to stimulate growth in your website and more activity. You can even sell memberships on your site if you target the subconscious desire to belong to a status group very carefully. The way to do this is to build a core group first of people who are already visiting your store or your online store. This gives your site authority. Then use strategies like Facebook where people join who have similar networks, interests, or because they are friends already. So you sign up people and invite them to have their friends join. You can even give them something for their efforts by either using a point system or some kind of free gift. This will help you build a network of people with similar interests who want to buy your products. Another way to use the subconscious desire to belong is to add different membership levels to your site. This works particularly well for sites that have a great deal for prestige. eBay uses this strategy by offering sellers a power seller status on their membership if they happen to have a high number of sales and a 90% feedback rating by the end of several months. If they do, they're automatically promoted to power seller status. Meanwhile, this motivates people to sell a lot and keep up good customer service on eBay. Similarly, if you own a respected research or non-profit site, you can have people who want memberships to get different perks per membership level and different types of recognition for being a part of your organization. This helps you sell memberships and increase your pool of people. Okay, let's talk about timing that strategy. The timing for this is actually very flexible. You can influence people through their subconscious programming at any stage of the sales cycle. It is particularly effective at the beginning when people might be attracted to your website, but not quite identifying it with their needs right now. By carefully triggering those subconscious desires, they will associate your website and product with the solution to their needs. So while you can do this anytime at the beginning, it can form a powerful first impression without being overbearing or insulting to buyers' intelligence. Another time that is perfect for this strategy is on your membership sales page. Since you can trigger the particular subconscious reason someone might join and help them to seal the deal. For instance, maybe you are a nonprofit that deals with environmental cleanup. Then you can have on your membership page the different levels and how each level helps you to do more good in the community. You can send them a bumper sticker or some other personally identifying perk to make them proud they belong to such a wonderful organization. Also, when a deal has already been closed, you might still be able to use a subconscious trigger right before the checkout to get more sales. Like the Amazon list that shows people who bought this item also bought these, which triggers a status subconscious desire. How can you pass up the other books when so many other people have them? Are they smarter than you, richer than you? What do they know that I don't know? So you might get triggered to buy more to just keep up with the Joneses. All right, that concludes this video. Hope this was helpful. We'll see you in the next video.